Hello and welcome to another episode of Chestnut Checkers. I am Keith Riddle, as always, with my co-host Jordan Tampien. And today we are interviewing Juli. Juli, I don't know if I caught your last name.
Norris.
Yep. And we were talking before we even started. And you are a restaurateur,
Yes.
a consultant, and a chef.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you got a couple of local spots here in Spokane that I've been to, and I also hear amazing things about. But talk to us a little bit about this journey of entrepreneurship, because I know that's seems to be your passion.
Yes, absolutely. Entrepreneurship is my passion. I come from North Spokane, a little basically horse and cattle ranch up almost to Deer Park, not quite that far.
That was Keith's cattle ranch, by the way.
Not mine, no.
Awesome.
Super good.
That's fun. And so I just kind of grew up, working that ranch, feeding horses and cattle before I went to school in elementary school.
Oh, you guys had a working ranch.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
When I was young. Yep, that's exactly what we did.
So did you guys farm too, or was it mostly animals and livestock?
We farmed alfalfa, but it was mostly just animals and livestock.
Okay.
And I think at the height of it, I think we ended up having like 250 head of cattle and like 50 horses. It was a pretty good size operation. And
it's the horses that scare me, not the cows.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always been way more frightened of horses than cattle. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's true, because you got to get closer to them, I guess.
Cattle are just kind of big and dumb. They don't really want much to do with you unless you're like prodding at them. I feel like horses are definitely like, they'll wait their turn. Like, they'll wait till you're walking between them and the trailer to kick you or something. They're like,
they will.
And maybe it's just
definitely
me. Like
they're a little smarter.
They sense fear, that's for sure.
They're like, I don't even fear. Like, they just think I'm a jerk. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We had this one big. It was kind of our driveway, but rural, you have a really long driveway. But we had this cement pad. And when I was really young, I had this purple banana seat bike. And I wanted to just ride it around this thing. It wasn't everywhere else was gravel and you couldn't ride on it. So I just wanted this. And the cows would walk on that in the night and
pack it down.
They would just create so many cow pies on there.
All
over the place.
Oh.
And so I'd have to clean them up to ride my bike. And so my dad got me a BB gun for Christmas one year. And so I decided I was going to train all these cows before they put the electric fence up, which saved my life. But before that electric fence came up, I was going to train all these cows. So I would sit there and I'd lay on this cement pad.
You train
and
them with your BB gun?
Yeah.
Just give them move.
I'd shoot them right in the butt, and they'd make this sound. And I did that, and you couldn't train them. I decided those cattle, nope. There's too many of them.
They probably didn't know where it was coming from.
Yeah, exactly. It's an assassin in the night.
What's going on?
That's not a great
Not
spot.
that blonde, curly-head girl up there. Couldn't have been her. Horsefly.
No way. Horsefly.
Well, to a cow, I mean, I don't know. If you grew up in the country, I'm sure every kid's probably shot a cow with a BB gun at some point.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately. But to them, it probably feels much more like a bee sting or a horse bite.
It's a horse bite.
100%.
Cow hide is like so thick, right? Like,
there was never any pain, just a little annoyance.
And
but
especially
I was
with distance, like, yeah.
Love the sniper. I can just picture it. Sniper shot on it.
I feel like I was a BB gun sniper when I was a
Oh,
kid.
yeah.
You
I
know?
upgraded to pellet guns, and that's when it all got real.
Yeah.
So.
So you grew up rural,
Yes.
sounds like,
Mhm.
on a working sort of ranch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then how did so talk to me about the rest of it. How did you get into cooking? How did you get into business?
Well, I wasn't afraid of hard work. A lot of people are like, why are you in this industry? It's so hard. I'm like, well, that's kind of what I've been accustomed to. But I grew up, my family lived in Spokane the majority of the time, had a short little bit of time in Los Angeles. And I married young. I married my high school sweetheart. And we were poor when I married him. He made like $3 and some change per hour. And so it was totally true love.
True love. Nothing into that one.
Yeah. True love.
It does exist.
It does exist. And so we just started out just poor, making our way, whatever we could do.
Uh-huh.
And we were putting him through school, and pretty soon he went to graduate school in Tennessee. So we moved there. Even though we grew up on a ranch, my dad was into farming and we had cattle, and he'd butcher a cow every once in a while. But my mom, city girl, 100%, hated that life, hated bugs, hated farming, hated work. It
was true love.
Yeah, she would not.
Would not eat cow?
That was her. She did not like it. She was not about it. So she was, and she didn't know how to cook. So she was fast food mom. So when I was little, I would grow up on either canned casseroles, which was typically what she made for dinner, or we would go through Arby's, or we would go through Taco Time. That's what she did. And so I just never really thought about food. I was just like, okay, whatever. When you get hungry,
Go to
grab
Arby's.
something to eat.
Right?
Yeah.
Go to Arby's.
Yeah, go to Arby's.
Don't ever get too far away from an Arby's.
Yeah.
That's
It's
a
true.
life lesson right there.
And it wasn't until we were at graduate school in Nashville with my husband that we were still dead broke, but we saved up enough money my neighbor was going to babysit because we had little kids by then. We were going to go treat ourselves to a nicer restaurant.
Mm.
And I remember walking into this restaurant, and
Do you
right
remember
away,
which restaurant it was?
it was. I'm too embarrassed to say.
No.
It's better.
Okay.
It was a nicer restaurant to me eating at Arby's.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
But
Jeez,
I remember,
Sonic.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think it was like a
This is-
macaroni grill, one of
Yeah.
those. Or
Yeah.
it was still a chain, but I had never been to anything like that. And I walked in, and I just remember, first of all, the smell of fresh bread. I was
Yeah.
like, whoa,
wow.
that's cool. And there was all these cool light fixtures and the lighting and the ambiance and just all the people moving. And they had an open kitchen. It was a really nice one. And I was like, what is happening here? This is cool. We sit down, I look at the menu, and I'm like, I have no idea what any of this stuff is. And my husband's like, I don't know either. And I'm like, I'll just get the chicken. And he's like, yeah, get the chicken. And I was like, okay. So I ordered the chicken and didn't think much of it. And when it came out, I was like, my gosh, what is this? It turned out to be chicken piccata.
Oh, yeah.
And I did not know what capers were. I did not understand why there were lemon slices on a dish. I had no idea how the pasta wasn't like just mush and it was like al dente. And the way that when I ate that dish, the way that the flavors were balanced on there
Mhm.
was something I'd never had before. And I remember going, wait a second, that's cool. You know, I had no idea.
How old were you at this time?
I was probably like 23.
Okay.
And I was like, that is awesome. I want to do that again. You know,
Yeah.
I need to eat better, first of all.
Yeah.
And second of all, I need to figure out why that was so good. And so as a young mom, my husband worked full time and went to school full time. So
Jeez.
I just did everything, household
Yeah,
and
you were taking
kids
care of all
and
that, yeah.
everything. But I just still wanted to figure this out. It was really cool to me. And so I, looked up recipes, obviously, and making recipes, anybody can make recipes and they always turn out different. But that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to understand the why. Like,
Mhm.
why did the fat balance so well with that acid? I didn't understand that that's what I was tasting at first, but
Yeah.
why did the salty just go so perfectly in there? And then the sweet basil. I mean, what was that about? And so I decided I wanted to try to go to a culinary school. And at that time, I was 3 babies in. I had 4 total, which is Casa, Kasa. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
Yeah, so I was on the S, which is my sunset.
Mm.
And I needed to figure out how to learn more. And so I researched like this gourmet cooking and catering program. And it was really cool. It had a lot of it used all the same textbooks as a lot of culinary programs that
Mhm.
were on site. And I could not do that because I had to take care of my family. And so I just started learning every single thing I could. And then after that, when I could, I started going to another program, which was about a personal chef certification. And then I went to a gourmet
So were you like going
business.
home and trying these on your family? Were you just like
Well,
blowing your family's mind at this
yeah.
point?
No, I
That's
was
true.
doing what I could. I was doing it a little bit. We did not have money. Like
Mhm.
we were broke, poor college students that were trying to pay the rent, So
Yeah.
I did what I could, but
Yeah.
mostly I was just learning. And so I would learn a specific thing. I'd learn one mother sauce and I'd get the ingredients to master that mother sauce. Then I'd go and I'd get this and I'd master that. Or and it was really important to me. And then the entrepreneur side of me obviously is kicking in. It's thinking, okay, what are you learning this? Where's your end goal? What are you
Yeah.
going to do with this?
Yeah.
Can you make this a business?
Were they giving you any advice at the school about
Yeah.
that? Or were they, yeah.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Kind of, okay.
Yeah, the advice is more like a personal chef route
Mm.
where you could or a private chef, the same thing. You could go in and cook for people. That was kind of what it was geared towards. But learning the food was really kind of what I focused on the most is understanding. It was a French-based program, and so it was understanding um, the fundamentals of cooking, the techniques of cooking, and and the history, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
just was just reading constantly. It was just all about it. And it was a lot of fun. And then as soon as I graduated that program, it was about 2006, end of
Yeah.
2005. And I opened my first business like immediately. And it was a gourmet cooking and catering company called Simply Gourmet. And I didn't have a whole lot of money to start. So what I would
Sure.
do is I taught myself kitchen design and I worked with Josh Hissong. That's when I
Yeah.
met Josh.
Oh
He's an awesome
yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
And worked together with him. And I would say, hey, I'm gonna work for you for free. I will help you design this space if I can use it for my business. And I was doing that everywhere I could. And I ended up doing that 3 different venues around town to just kind of um,
Oh wow.
build my business and get capital.
So you utilize the space to cook out of?
Yeah.
Yeah. Commercial kitchen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
commercial
Yeah.
kitchen. So
Yeah.
I would
What was the first one?
the Lincoln Center.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great.
way
spot.
back in the day.
You know, I
Mhm.
loved Lincoln Center, and I've been all through that building. I don't think I ever went to the kitchen portion of it though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
it
Where
a
was the
beautiful place.
kitchen?
It was
Was
in
it
the
in the-
back.
Oh, was it?
Kitchens are always in the back.
Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to think of where
but
at in
they're
this
the best
building.
place. They're the heart and the engine,
Yeah.
of any place, and that's where everything happens, and which is awesome. So then I kind of I had a lot of success. I had some really great. I did a lot of high end weddings. I did a lot of corporate events, and
I think like the part we might be wanting over about
Sure.
is like, but you were good at it.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of people that like research
Yes.
stuff
Yeah.
and never are actually
Or
good
go
on the
to
outcome.
school
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
stuff and then are still not
they're
necessarily
like,
good at it, right? There's a I won't say his name, but there's a dude that works here in the office, but he went to like a chef school
Oh, he
or whatever.
knows.
But he knows now. He doesn't listen probably. But he always he went to chef school, but we're like, dude, you're not a chef, you're a cook.
Yeah.
Like you're a cook, bro.
There's-
Like you never made it to chef status,
Yeah.
right?
There's
Like,
a line chef and a real
status.
chef.
there
Yeah.
is 100%.
But it sounds to me like you were good at it, obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
But-
And so
know-
you think that was because of the passion? Do you think you had like a little bit of a natural? I mean, you've probably met people that are not good at cooking.
Oh yes, I've met many, but there's just something about me. Like when I was a kid, my dad would always say, I'm one of 6, but my dad would always say to me, "Ooh, you've got horsepower," and that was part of I wanted to figure things out, and I wanted to, I just wanted to do. I wanted to build. I want to create. I want to keep going. I want to expand.
Yeah.
That is what really fuels me as a person. And that innovation part, that creativity part, that I
This
have
is
this
like
idea. Let's
precursor to
make
being
it.
an entrepreneur
Correct.
at all. I think
You gotta
Yeah.
have
I
that.
call that drive, right?
Yeah,
Like
it
you just
is.
have this drive,
And if-
internal drive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if I'm not smart enough, or if I don't know it yet, then what do? I need to go learn that.
Yeah.
If I don't have money for it yet, what do I need to do? I need to figure out how to get that. If I don't have, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of part of it. Building something from nothing is kind of the history of what I watched my dad do.
Yeah. Well, and so was that chicken piccata moment an aha moment
Yeah.
of shit, cooking's the thing? Or did you already have kind of a passion for it and then that just kind of showed you this is the path? Like we did a Bobby Enslow
Yeah.
interview and
Yeah.
the most surprising thing I took
Like,
from
I
that was
started
he doesn't
from
even care
it.
about coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
And you know what I
must
mean?
love
And so
coffee.
like, but some,
He's like,
I,
"Coffee?"
I feel like if you take out the fact we already know you own the restaurants,
Mhm.
I could, it sounds like you're running any company.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like I feel like you have that potential or that ability to run any type of
Yeah.
company. And so-
Definitely, I think I could.
And
for
so it was
sure.
cooking just kind of, hey, I kind of like this. And then now I'm intrigued and then dove in
Yeah.
or.
You
It was
think-
something I could do with young kids.
Okay.
at
So
home.
it fit the schedule.
It was
kind
some,
of,
yeah, and it was, and I do have a passion for that. I do have a passion for, experiencing,
Mhm.
how important food is in all of our lives.
Yeah.
It's what we do when we want to get together, we want to build relationships, when we want to even build a community, or anything else like that. That part of it is so fundamental and awesome.
Mhm.
And then at the same time, it was something like that was something I could do, when I had young kids. And then I could, you know, that's why I did catering is because I could do it on my schedule while they
Yeah.
were still in school and while they were still young. And thankfully I had all my kids really young. So
It is super funny because everybody's like, "Oh, Jordan, you must love real estate." And then I think back,
yeah.
the reason I got into real estate was, I liked looking at houses, but it also was something I could do on nights and weekends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it like grew into it. And sometimes I have to, like, I was thinking through your experience there, and I'm like, in theory, I could have gotten into anything, widgets, whatever.
For sure.
But for some reason, it fell into that line. And yeah, I still enjoy it and love it. But it's funny to watch how all of those fundamentals still transfer across
For sure.
any business.
Do you think
It's
you
so
like
true.
the cooking more or the business side?
The business side.
You like the business side
Yeah.
of it more.
I mean, I love the cooking, I don't do it like I haven't been on the line
Yeah, do
in
you
a
still
long
cook?
time. If we have a special event,
Okay.
then I'll be on the line, but I definitely am in the menu development and I am in the dish design
Mhm.
and in the flavor profiles and everything else like that. And part of it is because I love the cooking, but also it's because it's my brand.
Yeah.
And so it
Gotcha.
needs to be the level
Do you
for
still
Loren
do
that it
catering
needs
and
at.
outside events? Now you have
A little bit for Casa.
Okay.
But I don't do not at the same scale.
So Casa, what are your restaurants again here in Spokane?
So I have Casa Restaurant and Tap
Yeah.
House, and that one we opened first. That's on the ground floor of the Tampien building, and we're just over 2 years in that one.
Okay.
And then I opened Loren, 10 and a half months
Yeah,
after I
it's-
opened Casa.
yeah.
That's the one I haven't been to
That
yet.
was
Okay.
fun.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been in
and
Casa.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome! And then Loren is in the basement,
Okay.
and that is
Super
so
cool.
different. That is fine dining, French social club. And it's all about really good food, really good cocktails, really good wine.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's cool, speakeasy vibe. It was just
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
nice
you.
job. It fits.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the food, like it's one thing to design a plate, it's another to design the atmosphere.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think there's a lot of people that know how to put it on a plate.
yeah.
And then you go into the space and you're like, this doesn't line up.
Right,
This
right.
food quality doesn't match the
Incongruent with
look.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would say yours is one of the few places I've been. Yours in Wooden City, where it's like,
And I feel like
the
there's a
food
lot-
matches the
Matches the
vibe, matches
vibe.
the
Yeah,
space,
and I
matches
feel
the
like there's a
experience.
lot of
Thank
like
you.
the inverse too of like there's a lot of good vibey restaurants that
Yeah,
don't have
bad
great
food. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like,
It's hard to combine them all, and you think
yeah.
it's easy. But I remember like going with Matt to like restaurants, and it's so hard to go with Matt go to a restaurant because he's like listening to the music volume, the
Yeah.
lighting, how it's hitting, and I think
So
good
true.
good entrepreneurs or good restaurant owners
Yeah.
see all that
Yeah.
versus hey
100%.
just good food. So
Yeah, 100%. I mean, everything makes a difference.
so did you have a hand in that? I know Sheldon's
I did a hand in everything.
Yeah.
Sheldon's awesome. He was
Yeah.
like, "What do you want? Let's meet here."
Mhm.
Originally he hired a designer that was there for just a little while, and they were awesome. They kind of gave us a little bit of a color palette idea and picked out some of the chairs
Oh, okay.
and that was awesome. And then they kind of were out. They picked out I think the tile for the bar too, which is really cool. And I
That's
was
super
happy
cool.
about that. I got to pick out all the back bar stuff, but they picked out that really cool tile. They were great. And then they weren't working anymore with Sheldon, and so then it was really kind of up to me. And so I have a really good idea for that, or eye for that, I should say. And if I didn't know it, I was gonna now look at
Right,
it, 5 million pictures. I was gonna figure out what this modern French vibe is. I did all the research. I found all the accessories and everything else that went into that and helped. I also have a good friend. His name is Dave. He used to be a partner of Faber, and so
Oh,
he
yeah.
helped me in some of the design stuff of the bar. I'm like, here's my idea. Can this work? Can we do this? My daughter owns a media company, and so she helped us with our logo. She drew the Lady of Loren,
That's
which
cool.
is
Oh,
cool.
nice.
That's super cool.
Yeah,
Did she
and-
personally do it?
yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
yep,
She's
100%.
artistic. That's
She is.
cool.
She did great.
I was
And
gonna ask you if any of your kids cook or are chefs.
my youngest is an aspiring chef.
Oh, there you go.
Right now, she's managing and is the best bartender at Loren right now. So she's
Needs
killing
to-
it.
That's cool.
Nice.
Eventually, she also works in the kitchen upstairs at Casa, which is great. So she is the one that loves cooking and is going.
You just
for
need to
that.
put an
Yeah.
apartment in there for her now.
Totally
you know?
do.
Yeah. You don't have to leave the building.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were talking about it a little bit before because I'm trying to convince you to come to the Peyton building when I'm done
Yeah.
with it to do it. But how does What drives the decision? Is it Spokane needs a French-inspired restaurant? Is it Julie loves a French-inspired restaurant, now looking at, hey, I found a space, let's create it? What goes
Right.
on your mind as you're trying to come up with that concept?
I look at what I feel the city needs and what I feel the space is saying. Like when I saw the space for Loren, I was low key getting a tour of that building and happened to walk down into that basement. That basement was a dungeon.
Yeah.
It was basically the plumbing and storage for the upper floors. So there was a sewer pipe that went from one side of the room in front of the beautiful arch all the way down to the other corner so that it had the grade to be able to
To run.
toilets flush
As
upstairs.
sewer lines do.
Yes, they definitely need it.
Or
And
at least as
yeah.
you hope they do.
As
The other way doesn't work well.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there was hardly any light down there. There was a couple of like lights strung up on like extension cord and stuff. And I was walking through that. There's lots of spiders, which I hate. And but I came across that arch that is the entrance to the restaurant of Loren. And I remember thinking, that is really cool. Somebody built this for a reason, and that's really cool. And it's a shame it hasn't been seen in decades. You know, the building was built in 1906, I believe.
Yep.
So it's like the fact that this is down here, it's so dark. And then they have these beautiful wood beams that haven't seen any light.
So do you
since
think that the
1906.
the space was built with the intention of being finished and at some point got turned into warehouse and storage space? Or do you think that that space was actually built with that building with the intention of probably always being a basement?
I don't know. I think it was probably always going to be a basement.
Well, there's no
But
way to change
nobody
that. I
put-
guess that was
yeah.
a dumb question on my end.
Sounds
But,
like
okay.
it was meant to be the top floor.
Yeah.
no, I'm
We're
saying
going to
like,
raise it up.
but was
No.
it meant to be a finished space
Yeah.
of the building, you think?
It right where the restaurant is, the ceilings are higher,
Yeah.
and then right where the hallway is, and for the rest of the space, the ceilings are a lot lower.
Mm.
So I'm not sure exactly why, but going through that arch and seeing the ceilings get higher, and then being able to visualize, where that bar would be like just walking straight in, I was like, this needs to be something cool. And Sheldon wasn't convinced at first.
Yeah.
So, because he was
Who's Sheldon?
he's the building
Jackson.
owner.
Sheldon
he's
Jackson.
awesome.
Yeah,
Sheldon
yeah.
Jackson. He's awesome. I basically went to him and I was like, I didn't know 100% it was going to be Loren. I just said, this needs to be something cool. Maybe this is like a wine tasting room, or we do high-end events here. It needs to be really, really cool. At the time, I was looking for a place for Casa. And so I was interested in upstairs. The only problem was there was already a tenant there that had a long-term lease.
Mm.
And so
It was a burger place or something, wasn't it?
no, it was actually it was a cannabis lab.
Yeah.
Oh,
But it was right upstairs, and they had a long-term
lab.
lease
Is that
on
like
that.
a term they use for like
Yeah.
pot shop now? Lab.
I don't
You said a
know.
lab. Were they doing like
No, they're actually
experiments?
They
testing
were
it.
testing
Oh.
it.
It was all
like,
testing.
Oh, was it legit?
It was
No, it's
like
a
a
legit
legit
lab.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, the
So-
original I think was the Ram Brewery.
Yeah, way
Before
back.
that.
That's
back
how
in the
I remember that
80s
place. And then
90s.
what was the place at the very top? There
Wasn't
was
all
like
the
a
same? Wasn't it a
nightclub.
3-story?
No, it was like
concept?
a Ram restaurant, and then there was a nightclub up top.
They did have that nightclub, and I can't
Some
remember the name
nights?
of that.
I
But it
wasn't-
was
I
but it was
wasn't here
pretty
then.
cool. And then and so he wasn't convinced yet. And so I basically sold him on the downstairs space first. I was like, this needs to be something cool. And he was like, yeah, I like that idea. Let's talk more about that idea. Would you be willing to do something there, and then we could find you another spot for Casa? And I was like, I will do the basement, but I want the spot upstairs for Casa. And so it was during COVID, and so there was all these weird things. And anyway, he was able to things ended up falling through, so he was able to offer that space for me, which was great. And then we were able to do Loren too, but Loren wasn't what I was looking for. I was really looking for a place for Casa.
Yeah.
And then the space just kind of spoke to me, and
Not that you have to pick between children here, but like which one's your favorite? Casa or
they're so
Loren?
different. Casa is beer, patio, family. It's right off the park, Ice Age Park.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball, we're right. Hoop Fest is huge for us. We are really fun in our marketing and stuff. We're really fun. Loren is nighttime,
Yeah.
chill. It's speakeasy vibe. They're so different.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll eat from Casa. The next day I'll eat from Loren.
Yeah, it's rotating.
And then
funny.
the staff is great. I have a few that work at both. but most of them, they love what they do.
So I want to go back and put some gaps, fill in some gaps in the story. So we kind of went from like you were in school to now you have these two amazing restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
And not
Yeah.
that we need the whole story, but I'm always interested in entrepreneur stories and these and like the trials and tribulations or
On the
just the
pivots,
evolutions.
right? Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So
So
many.
how do you go from running like I guess I'd call it like high end catering ish?
Yeah.
Right. To starting your first place. Like just walk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, while I was doing my catering company, I was not good at the bar at that time. Now I'm really good at bars, but at that time I didn't have a liquor license because I didn't own the buildings. I was basically, do what I could do to work out of these buildings, and I needed to find a way to be able to offer that to clients. And I ended up meeting with who Jonathan. He turned out to be my business partner in Downriver after that, and Downriver did our bars. They were awesome, and then pretty soon it was just a natural fit. He needed help at the restaurant. I needed to build my catering company. And so I became a partner at the Downriver Grill. And I was a partner there for about 12 years.
The DRG salad is one of my
It's
favorite
great
salads.
salad.
Whitney orders it
in the
all over.
whole
Yeah.
city. I love
It's
that place.
It's a
dude.
wonderful restaurant. They're great people. They're wonderful people. So that was a really awesome time of my life because I was able to basically say, okay, I'm going to learn this. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like I already
Yeah.
know this. I know this. I know this. I know this. Anything else I don't know yet. I'm going to start learning it right
Yeah.
now.
Mm.
Seems to be your story there.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's a good way to do it.
Yeah, diving into the unknown. How do you I guess I'd say how do you prepare yourself for that or how is it how would you teach that to somebody?
Diving into the unknown. I think the biggest lesson that people need to know when that is something that they're faced with or they want to do something and they're not sure how, is to ignore the fear. Fear is
Yeah.
good. So many people, they want to do something. They want to get to that next level. They want to follow their dream or find the path to their dream or whatever, however they want to put it. And as soon as they get rejection or as soon as something that looks hard gets in front of them, they feel that fear.
Yeah.
They start to be like, well, maybe I can't do this. Well, other people go, and whatever. They get in their own heads. They feel that fear. And one of the best things you could do as an entrepreneur is to not be emotional about it, not love your dream so much that you can't adapt it to where it needs to actually be, but also to work through that fear and let that fear actually fuel you to figure it out,
Mhm.
because you're gonna make 5
Yeah, I'm
million
gonna
mistakes.
stop right here with you just because I think this is so important. But I call it thinking without fear.
Yeah,
But the reality is what you're talking about. I think it is so important. It's so important for entrepreneurs. It's so important for business owners, but just people in life when you get into a spot where you don't know what to do or what you want is on the other side of your knowledge or your skills,
yeah,
and it creates a fear. But being able to push through that or power through that, I think is it's elusive to so many people. I would say
Right.
it's the largest hurdle. I coach people professionally, like business coaching, and it's one of the largest hurdles that most people you have to mentally get them through because they well, my sister said it won't work, or my mom thinks it's a dumb idea, or
Right.
what if it doesn't work, or what if I fail, or what will people think of me? All of these kind of things creep into your head.
Oh,
Yeah.
And when it's easy to look at like the LeBron Jameses or the Kobe Bryants or the Michael Jordans and like they make things look so natural. But in the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial world, a lot of times those high charging entrepreneurs that have this success, they have that ability. I think it's one of the unique abilities. It can also get you in trouble,
Yeah,
but it's one of the unique abilities. I feel like if you don't have it, it's really hard to be successful as an entrepreneur. If you
For
can't
sure.
go into
I think it's
the
hard to be an
unknown.
entrepreneur if you don't have it.
right.
In a lot of ways. And at that time, it's
But I'm such a proponent of teaching people to own business or go into business or become entrepreneurs. But it's one of the things that you have to start with first.
Yeah.
Because it will be your Achilles heel if you don't deal with it. I saw a great meme the other day, and it was like a thing, and it said, "Are you tired?" And then it was like, "Well, then just do it tired."
Yeah,
I thought-
that's pretty good.
I thought that was
so
so good.
true.
But for
Do
me,
it afraid.
Yeah. do it afraid. So
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking in my
Yeah.
head is like, can you recognize the fear? Like, okay, I'm scared.
Yeah.
But now I'm just going to do it scared.
Yeah.
I'm going to just do it and be scared.
Yeah.
But so many people, it's like, you take them to the edge of the cliff. They look, I'm scared. It's like, I don't want to jump off. And It's
Right.
like, well, jump
Yeah.
off anyway, right?
For sure.
Do you think somebody naturally, did you already naturally have
Sounds
that
like
ability,
it,
or
but-
did you feel like you trained yourself to
I-
not, because you still obviously
Yeah.
recognize fear, you went into restaurants.
Right.
So you had to.
I had to kind of train myself to do that.
Yeah.
I'm also
how so?
kind of.
How
But
would
you had that. What did your dad say? You had that
I do have
horsepower.
horsepower,
You had
yeah.
that horsepower to begin
I,
with.
I
so.
have that drive, and so
Yeah.
I had to figure
Yeah.
out how to tackle the fear.
Yeah.
And the fear of failure, the fear
Yeah.
of rejection, the fear of whatever. Because I mean, you know, I just want to keep building. You know,
Yeah.
that's where I find the that's where I feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
I want to keep building. And so and when I was kind of at that point in my professional life where I was stagnant and there was no real growth ahead of me, you know, it's like a fire in my belly just keeps growing, and I'm like, okay, I need to keep going. But, you know, I'm in a good place right now, or I'm making money right now, or I'm this, or what if I fail, or COVID, you know, all these things just get you, you know, and you got to find that, you got to find financing, you have to do this, you have to do this. And, you know, I just had to push forward. You know, I started
Yeah.
meeting with anyone that would meet with me that I didn't, you know, I'm not super well known around this town. And so I would talk to someone and be like, do you know anybody that might want to invest in me to open up my own restaurant? And they're like, well, maybe, you know, give this guy a call. I would
Yeah.
call, and I would show up at his office, and I would meet with him, and I'd be pitch him. I'd give him the best freaking elevator pitch I could come up with. And I would try, and I got no. And then I would call the next person, and I would sit down and you know, what about this? What about this? You know, here's my pitch. And I got a no, and I got a no, and I got a no. And I probably, in order to get funding
Was
for
this when
Casa-
you were your first restaurant was
yeah,
Casa?
for
and
Ca- my first single owned restaurant is Casa.
okay.
And every single person I met with said no.
Yeah.
And so then what did I do? I said, okay, I have to go a different way. I have to figure this out. So then I
How
was
many
able
no's
to,
you think you got?
I probably got 8 or 9 no's.
Yeah.
And from people that knew me really well too. And
And that's hard when you go with
That's
the
hard.
direct pitch too, because you're throwing your
Yeah,
passion in it. It's
exactly.
not like you
It
saw
was-
them in
I-
an email
yeah.
and they were like, "No thanks." Like you
Yeah.
said,
Those are
you're like,
easy rejections.
I
Right.
printed up
They're like,
like-
"Believe
yeah.
in me. I got this. I can do this."
so true.
And they're like, "No."
They're like, no. I had pro formas. I had photos of ideas of what the restaurant might look like. Of course, they're completely different than what it turned out to be. But I had done my homework. I had an idea of the initial menu. I knew, you know, what profitability, at least a good guess at profitability, and every single person said no. And so then I was like, okay, I have to do something different here. And I know I could do it. You know, I was running this the restaurant that I co-owned very successfully for 12 years. I had, you know what I mean? Like I just wasn't really known around town. Nobody was willing to take take any kind of risk on me. And my husband is completely opposite of me. He is the opposite of an entrepreneur. He is a clock in, clock out. So you can imagine
Yeah,
going through this process with me, how difficult that was for him, you know, and he'd be like, oh, well, it's just not meant to be. I'm like, no, it is 100%. Don't worry about that. You're like,
It's just not meant to be yet.
Yeah.
yeah.
This
It's
is
not
just
meant to
a
be.
little speed
You don't know
bump.
me very well.
Yeah.
Just help me
I
train
got
for the next
horsepower,
pitch.
right?
Yeah. Listen here. And but the good thing about him is very humble, and he believes in me. And so that was good. So eventually that support came, you know, once he had to deal with his fears about everything. And but then eventually I thought, okay, I'm going to do this a little different way. And so I thought, okay, I am going to find a building owner that wants me to do something cool with their space. They don't even know it yet. They don't even know that the space is going to be cool yet. But I mean, that's what I
like
got to
it.
do.
Yeah.
And so then I
Go pick on some real estate guys.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I pitched a little bit to the guys over in Kendall Yards. I got a fat no for that.
Oh.
I finally found Sheldon, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And I think me pitching Loren was what
Got
that
you,
vision,
Casa.
which is
Yeah.
what led me. He was like, okay, she's a visionary. Oh, she's not going to stop, you know. And I think that was what helped him be able to see that vision. And then once he saw my vision, and as I started working with him through that process, he was like, you know what you're doing. I'm busy. I'm gonna go over here.
Yeah.
And he was awesome. He was very hands off. He was just like, okay, here's your budget for build out, do it, you know, and he would show up every once in a while and with an idea here, an idea there, and some were good and some were really good. And we made a couple changes on, and he liked the majority of my ideas. And then I came up with the idea of the
So how
secret
did
room.
you run into him? So you were getting no's from individual
Yeah.
persons. Then you said, like, I'm gonna go find some real estate
Yep.
dudes that want me to, or gals
Um,
that want me to finish
yeah.
their space. How many of those did you go through? Or how did you run into him? Was that just serendipitous, or?
No, I basically I have a really good friend, and she was doing, her name's Angela. She was doing um work for different places out there. She does PR.
Mm.
And so she was renting space from him. And so
Oh,
she
nice.
knew him from there. And he hit his building over where Ladder Coffee is over on
So you bought one of the coolest buildings in it, so now the flower shop or the plant shops in it.
yeah.
So just west on Riverside.
On Riverside.
Of Maple.
Yep.
Right on the corner there. It used to be a nunnery.
Oh,
It was original
it's a
use.
very
What?
cool building.
Really?
Yep, original use.
Havanas. That was the place up top.
Nice.
Dude, Havanas. That's
Ooh
sorry.
la la.
Sorry.
It was.
It was a nightclub up there. You had to take an elevator.
Havanas.
It was cool.
Finally, it's
There
that's
we go.
awesome.
Havanas. Sorry.
No, that's great.
So
But,
anybody's Spokane native in like the 80s or 90s, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I remember Havanas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she introduced me to someone that worked for Sheldon, whose name was Jay, and then I
Yeah.
got
Cool.
the
So what do you think the difference was as far as like him believing in the space? Just because he had some space and you seemed like you had some horsepower, or do you think?
yeah. Sheldon is a cool guy. He tends to look at people that have big ideas that aren't necessarily. I mean, just look at Aaron from Ladder Coffee.
Yeah.
He started on his porch. And Sheldon gave him a lot of opportunity to build his business, which is super cool. And Sheldon just kind of is that guy. He's got a really big heart. And so he was willing to take me serious because he has a big heart. And then I was able to say, this building is going to be epic. Nothing was done at that time. I'm like, and he knew it. He believed in that building already. But I was like, this needs to be a restaurant right here. It's overlooking the park. It's beautiful. We need to do something really cool in the basement. And then, and we just clicked. We had a great relationship and just clicked.
What was the gap between? Okay, so I'm just filling in my own personal gaps here, but you're like 23-ish in culinary school
Mhm.
with 4 kids or 3 or 4 on the way.
Mhm.
You start catering after,
Yeah, we moved back to Spokane when he was finished.
and so you started as catering when you were like mid 20s-ish.
Yeah.
I'm just
gosh, I
trying to
don't
put a
even know.
timeline together for the listeners to say that this stuff takes time.
It does take time.
It takes time is where I'm
takes
trying to lead you
time.
in the sense of.
Well, from
you-
that point and my catering.
So
and,
how long did you do the
and,
catering before you opened, or before you got into the Downriver Grill?
2006 to 2010.
Okay, so 4.
So about
Yeah.
4 years. And it
And
was
then-
late 2010 when I was able to buy in and be a partner at
And
the
then
grill.
you were a part of the grill for 2010
12
to
years.
12
22.
years.
Yeah.
So before you had your first spot, your first solo spot,
Yep.
you had been doing this for 15
Yep.
plus years.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And learning everything I could possibly
And I say that to the 23-year-old culinary student right now who's coming out of school who wants
Yeah.
his own
Wants
spot
their own
tomorrow.
spot.
Yeah.
Not that you can't have that or chase that, but like these things take time.
They
These
do.
things take a lot of time.
And you have to learn more. You have to learn more. You want your own spot, you have to learn the business if you're going to be successful. You have to learn the bar, you have to understand, the costing, the marketing. You have to understand all of that, all the logistics on how it works. Because that is how you can be successful. And also all of those things are part of your brand.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just opening it up and you're hiring a manager, and whatever they decide is kind of your culture. Or
Well, because
what's
what are your
front.
margins? I
Yeah.
mean, fine dining's probably a little different, but like when we had our restaurant,
5%, 2%.
Yeah, we were at 8%.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
missed by something,
You're
you're It's
toast.
one miss.
Well,
Right.
and like booze is higher, right? Like so if you serve booze, then you're like maybe you're 15 or 20 and your food is like 3 or 4 and you got
Yeah.
that blended average.
Yeah.
But if you're just food, I would assume you're like 5.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
my margins at Loren for that very reason are better than my margins at Casa, because
it's mostly food.
it's mostly food and pints of beer. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Loren, we do cocktails and high end
Delicious
whiskeys.
cocktails,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. And
I like delicious
high-end
cocktails.
wine.
I'll have to check that
It's
out.
really
Yes.
good cocktails and
Yeah.
creative.
Yeah.
Actually, super creative, like kind you wouldn't have anywhere else in town.
Yeah.
It's always like intrigued me, like high end cocktails, like really good cocktails. You think like you drink 40 of them, which I'm sure you probably could, but I actually drink them.
40?
I actually drink them slower.
Yeah, you enjoy 'em.
Yeah.
Enjoy them.
Because they're good.
And instead of just like crushing like vodka club sodas,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm like,
This is down.
I'm actually drinking these slower and enjoying it more. Like maybe I just need to drink better booze,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. And part of it in making that good cocktail is using better booze. I mean, even our wells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like we have like higher end in our well. Like we have 4 roses in our well.
Oh,
That's our
yeah.
well. You
That's a
know,
good
so
well.
so that's kind of all part of it is being very intentional.
Do you have different I mean, they're completely different restaurants.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, do
Completely
you have
different.
different margins or the ways you operate? Like, I
Yep.
feel like that would be hard dancing between the two of a run of fine dining
Yep.
and then jump to I
So-
would say a sit down casual, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Is
fast
Loren
casual.
open in the day at all? Or is it just
Nope, just in the evenings.
just in the evenings? Okay.
Yep. Either 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, depending on the day, and we close around 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't even stay open that late.
Yeah.
Which is great. You know what I mean? Because it's
Well,
feel
the
like-
part you're getting into, actually, I was going to finish the secret room and the other
Oh,
part of
yeah.
it, right? Because it's more than just the restaurant piece, but I think it's one of a cool, creative,
yeah.
almost like following piece. If you were going to
Yeah.
explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so we had this. So Sheldon basically said the basement is a clean slate. You decide what space you want, how much of it you want, do whatever you want with that, and then just tell me your skeleton. We'll figure out how we're going to figure out your lease. And I was like, okay. So there was this awkward space. We had to have a hallway and everything to come into that little space for fire code, and also we wanted a grand entrance. But there was this awkward little. I don't even know what the heck shape it is, but
It's a weird shape.
it's
Yeah.
a very weird shape. It's almost like a kite.
Yeah.
but the more like a flag kite, not
Yeah.
a kite. But and it had all these weird beams that they had added later, so they weren't like the old beams. They were
It
just
was the
these-
part of the building that was going to collapse on itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
My guess is they probably held the beer tanks
Yeah,
upstairs.
killed the beer.
Like they
Oh,
reinforced,
yeah, I
they
got you.
reinforced
it.
this section of
Got
the
you.
building.
They
So you're
totally
immediately-
Something heavy was upstairs. Yeah.
You're
Yes.
immediately like secret room.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, nothing is gonna fall now. It's
Yeah,
so
it's
well
solid, yeah.
reinforced. And so it was just an awkward shape. So at first I was like pencil drawing. Maybe we had like one big long table and wine barrels around the outside, and I invited like different winemakers to come in. We'd have like this little wine tasting area. Maybe I would have like the rest of the middle space. One idea I had was calling it La Place, which is, the place, obviously in French. So it's such a stretch.
Draw
but-
Translate.
place.
Yeah, thanks for
Love place.
and then
The-
we'd have a bunch of like little places, like little shops, like for things down there, and all these kind of fun ideas and everything. And then and we got down to it, and I was like, I think, the restaurant itself is pretty small,
Mhm.
and I wanna it is prime real estate. I pay for that. And I need something else that's cool, to kind of generate money. And so I thought, well, what if, and then of course I had Dave, I call him Little
Yeah.
Dave, who
Yeah.
has been a good friend of mine for so long and is really talented. And I was like, what if I created a hidden room? And in that room, we were able to kind of build some tables along the wall. We had to put them right against the wall, or there wouldn't be enough room in there. And so that we could have a bench on one side and then seating for 20, and have it as a room that's separate from the restaurant, that can be, rented separately. But then also, because it's a speakeasy and we're high end, I don't want it to feel like it's just this rental space. Let's make it a perk where social club members can
Yeah.
use it. And so we've taken 25 social club members. That's all we're going to have. And
What?
yeah,
I can't even get in. She's
No.
like tells you about this.
Wait
She's
list.
like, by the way, it's full.
Wait list. Yeah.
you can rent it independently if the social club members are not using it. So you can get in, or
Got
you can become
you,
a social
got
club
you.
member. That's
There
what you should
go.
do.
Okay.
But we developed a perks for the social club members, which is we have a wine club now where they get great prices on high-end wines, like even like Quisita and really
Oh,
cool
yeah.
wines. And then they also get these perks where they get to use that room several times a year for free. And we provide like a charcuterie and food and snacks, so they can have a business party, or they can have a birthday party, or they can do a fine dining dinner, whatever they want. And that's anytime. It doesn't have to be opening hours. They want to do a lunch. That's just kind of a cool perk there. And
Yeah.
and then we were able to work with Townsend and create our own higher end wine, so bottle price
Oh,
wine, and then a glass pour, which
Nice.
people have
I literally want to
loved.
go there right now.
Yeah.
I like want to
Yeah.
leave here and go there right
It's,
now.
I would say it's an inspirational space. Like
That's
it's
awesome.
Thank
Are you guys
you.
open tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
You should
going there
definitely
tonight.
take care of
that. Yeah.
She's working.
It is.
tonight.
It's
a lot of
maybe,
fun.
Maybe I could surprise you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Me and Jordan have talked in the past about. I grew up kind of rural as well, but also with real estate, it's like I always loved this concept of like as a little boy, like making forts.
Yeah.
And there was always this thing, like me and my brothers would drag all this like cardboard into the forest or out by the pond. Like you'd build a fort.
Yeah.
But then it was never about like really like the lackluster would leave me
Of being in the fort. 'cause
after you built the fort and you
Yeah.
were there for a while. I'm like, well, I just want to go build a new fort. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like this restaurant industry could be like that for you or
For
for
sure.
anybody, like opening new restaurants and because it's the process of like visualizing it and then
Right.
designing it and
Yeah.
then creating the menu and doing all, like you get to be this sort of kind of
Right.
creative is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Um,
And it has its own unique identity.
yeah.
And you have to figure out, kind of like what you had brought up a little bit earlier was the differences in you're running a fast casual restaurant, or now you have to switch and now you're doing this fine dining.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an easy thing for me to do because I understand the way they both run, at the fundamental level. I understand the difference in costing and the difference in.
Is that your passion then? Like, so do you see yourself because you have the consulting
I was gonna say,
company?
are there more
Yeah.
coming? Are there more
Meaning,
cool
like, do you
restaurants
enjoy
Yeah.
actually owning the business,
Yeah.
or would you rather just go around and help people who don't see that
For
start
sure.
them and then go to the next one?
I definitely would love to do that. And
Yeah.
which
More
I think
than
would be cool.
owning them.
I love the creation part, so I
Yeah.
can never get away from that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I would, I feel like I have at least 2 more restaurants in me. We were chatting
Exactly.
about that
You
before.
got 2 more. Okay.
It's
Probably.
coming to the Peyton
We'll
near
see
you-
how that
near
goes.
us soon.
Nice.
And so that building and creating is awesome.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is the culture of that for my staff is also something that is important to me
Nice.
as well. And so like I have one chef that was with me since 2006.
Oh wow.
So he left a little bit when I was at the grill, but then he always told me, if you open a restaurant, I'm coming back. He lives in the Tri-Cities, and as soon as he heard I was opening it, he's like, he's back. And
That's awesome.
that kind of I want to have a culture of number one, being proud of this industry, because a lot of times there's restaurants out there that don't cook anymore. They reheat,
Correct.
or they deep fry and that's all they do, or they microwave and that's all they do. Chef Mike,
Oh, yeah.
But I want to create, even in my fast casual model, the art of food is important. The art of really having unique flavors and as much as you can make from scratch as possible. Even in Casa, we make every single dressing from scratch. That's just kind of what we do. We make our bread from scratch. We do all
and
that.
it seems so cumbersome from the outside. Like I almost wouldn't
It
blame
is.
them if they bought their sauces or their whatever. I'm like, you're gonna make your own ranch? Like
100%.
that seems weird. But then you would taste it and you're like, that's also what makes places unique.
Yeah.
Right? Like you go to a certain place and you're like,
Mhm.
it's ranchish, but this is really good ranch. Or
Yeah.
this tastes a little, and it's like, man, why doesn't everybody do it this way? This is cool
And-
because they make it
yeah.
every day.
Exactly,
They don't buy it in
exactly.
a jug.
And sometimes it's cheaper to buy it than it
Mhm.
is to make it. Especially I would say most of the time it is.
Really?
Because
Mhm.
you have to
Yeah.
pay the labor too.
You're doing it in bulk, yeah.
And if they mess up on the recipe, it's gone, or
It's
they
gone.
they burn 5 pork butts because they didn't set the timer. You know what I mean? So sometimes that instead of buying a bag of pulled pork, which
I burned
which
an
a lot of
elk burger
restaurants
the
have.
other day and I was pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was lividly like,
You had to go
pissed.
hunt
My
and
wife
get
had to like
that.
say something. She's like, "You're all right." I'm like, she's like, "It's just a cheeseburger." I was
I'll
like,
be okay.
I ran outside to change the sprinkler to do something, and I left it on there, and I was so mad, so mad. But I hiked that stuff out of the mountains on my back.
Well, exactly.
Oh.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
every little
And-
piece, I'm
yeah.
like, damn it. I didn't want. I was like trying to eat it. She's like, just make another one. I'm like,
You're like, I'm committed. This
I'm
means
so
something.
committed.
Uh-huh. Well, I think that's what I would say is it's one of the best parts about Spokane. I mean, with what you're doing and those is we actually have a pretty good food scene
Yeah, we do.
around that for how small of city we are, about how many restaurants actually do that,
Yeah.
right? This is a town, this used to be called the fast food town.
Yeah.
Every fast food restaurant would test one on Division
They
to
would.
see their concept if it worked.
Yep.
And then if it worked there, then it could work anywhere.
Yeah.
And
I'll
as-
never have one on Division.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I stay away from Division purposely for that reason. And so, but I think that's the glamorous side. And I've owned a few restaurants, not necessarily cooked in them. But what are the hardest things about owning a restaurant?
I would say staffing is always hard. Staffing is just Washington State doesn't make it easy for us, especially in this, giving, the way that they have some of their laws with the full tipping and
Oh, Washington State hates small business.
Yeah.
They
They
do.
literally hate
That's-
small business.
that's-
It's
that's
terrible.
Yeah, you got to be a
hard.
medium or large business in Washington to
Yeah.
thrive.
100%. And so that's kind of hard because I pay quite a lot for my employees right now to have really good health insurance.
Oh yeah.
And because I am so small, and I mean I could grab and they have these little cheap insurances and things like that they just cover just this little bit, but it's really like Affleck a little bit better than
Yeah.
Affleck. And so I make choices like that to try to make that better, but I can't really compete with some of the bigger businesses, and the cost so it's just a hit to me.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
But the staffing part is difficult because I also can't compete with McDonald's when I pay somebody $20
$20
an hour
to
or
flip a
whatever
burger. Yeah.
to flip a burger, and so that is a challenge. That's probably the hardest thing in Washington. So I try to find people that have that love for the industry, and that number one, are not afraid of long hours or hard work. That's just kind of in their blood.
Yeah.
There's people that's like that, and so I have way less turnover in the kitchens than I do for front of house because it's
Yeah.
not really for Loren, but mostly for Casa. Because we have young people, and so they're going to school or they're doing that, or
Yeah. Have you
but
modified
that's the
your business
hardest.
any way to address, like, so at Brick West, I mean, in theory, you don't think about it, but really we have two humans. Like you order at the
You have two
table,
humans, yeah.
and when they're slow, they may bus it.
Yep.
But like we went from when we did food, 10 employees at a given time to
Yeah.
2
The two, and you just
on site. And then it's like, well, you come and order, you stand in the line.
yep.
I mean, and then they're opening it's called the Griffin Tavern in the old Brooklyn Deli.
Oh yeah,
And that's self pour.
yeah. There you go.
And so I'm wondering because I think back to, I feel like food, I like beer, I like food, but that
Yeah.
like it's kind of a staple. It's the driver. Like when we look at a multifamily apartment buildings and where we put them, there
Yeah.
has to be food.
Yeah.
There has to be somewhere for people to go and hang out. But I think one other piece that we're seeing and will be the saddest part is I think they're the kind of the fix to that, because it's the only fixed cost that you could actually manipulate or fix is getting rid of humans.
Yeah. I know.
And
And
so
it's sad.
do you see, I mean, fine dining
Yeah.
probably is its own category,
Yeah.
but like a Casa.
We started with that with the order at the table.
Yeah.
And then we also have just counter service.
Yeah.
The way we're so spread out, it is a challenge, is trying to have, because we have a big footprint. We have the beer garden that's way over
Yeah.
on the east side, and then the whole west side,
Mhm.
the city, which is a nice thing the city did. So thank you for the outdoor patio up there. They've
Great.
this is the second year in a row they've done that and have been like, this is just for you. And I think that's so sweet. And so now we have to have staff busing and everything out there. So yeah, we do have fewer people, and have to watch that. But it's funny because we get a lot of pushback on ordering at the table, which is
What do
is
they want to
funny.
go up in order? Or they want someone to
They
come to
want
them.
someone to come and order
Yeah.
from them, and we have not crossed that bridge. Like if there's a large party, we'll send them out with a iPad or something,
Yeah.
just so we don't have a line that goes all the way to the arena.
Yeah.
But
And as she's explained, it's a building sits here, massive patio on the Spokane Arena side, patio on the front,
Yep.
and then a beer garden over here. So in
Yep.
theory, a server could be
It's-
trek. Like it's
yeah.
a pretty
10,000
sizable.
steps
Yeah,
a shift.
it's a pretty sizable spread.
It is. It's pretty, and had I known we were gonna have the beer garden, I probably would have had the design just a little different.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that until after. Originally, we were just gonna have one patio
Yeah.
off the front, like right off of Riverfront
Yeah.
Park. But then city said no to that, and then so now we kind of have it on the side, which is great, and then a few chairs up front, which is what we could do, and then all the way into the beer garden.
Yeah.
So
Do you think that you'll sell any of them, or are they like your babies? Like, could you part ways with them for the right
I
price?
think I could.
Yeah.
If the price was right.
Nice.
The cool thing, I mean, you know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things where when you build that business, you know, you put your heart and your soul in it. They
Yeah.
are like a baby. But at the same time, you know, you want to build something for the community and you want to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, the K in Casa, Kelsey, she runs Casa and she loves it. She wants that. So that'll be something that she's going to be doing. And then my second daughter has the social media and the
PR firm. Yeah.
PR firm, which is Ash Rose Media, and that's cool. And she's doing that. And then my son is going to medical school this year. He's just a couple months from leaving. He's going to medical school.
Wow.
Then my youngest daughter wants to be in the restaurant. So the oldest and the youngest are gonna want to be in those restaurants.
Nice.
And Ashlyn loves the fine dining aspect and the cocktail aspect and all of that. And Kelsey is all about the fast casual part. So, you know, if they want it, that's something awesome for them. They can definitely, that's definitely there for them. You know, I'm just going to keep building and going and seeing, you know, till I get too tired and I just want to be at a beach the rest of my life.
Yeah,
Which I have a feeling is going to be never.
Never. Yeah, exactly. It always
Like-
sounds so good. It's always that elusive carrot out in front,
Yeah.
just so you keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll open a restaurant on a beach. There
see.
you go. Then I'll just sit
Yeah,
outside.
that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
But then you'll want to fix it up and get
Yeah,
the next
that's
one.
right.
Yeah.
So true.
Well, thank you
Yes,
so much.
thank you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like I need to go check out Loren.
Yes.
You
You
definitely do.
definitely should.
You definitely do.
And I've been to Casa, but I want to revisit that one too. And that park there is awesome.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah.
is. Skate park, water park, and then all the cool
Oh, and
toys
all
for
the
kids.
events, and it's pretty
Food
cool.
fest
Yeah.
and-
So
yeah.
before soccer games, we go to Casa on the patio if it's open, and then.
Yeah.
But you're kicking off when's the beer garden kickoff? This
Beer garden kickoff is this Saturday. We're gonna
Yeah,
be
so
5
June
to
7th.
7. Yeah, June 7th.
June 7th, 5 to 7.
Yeah.
Come check out Casa if you haven't checked it out.
Yeah.
You're here local.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie.
you.
Appreciate it. And excited to hear about the ones that might potentially still be coming in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, you guys. Thanks for listening to today's episode. While you're out there, would you please do us a favor and give us a like, subscribe, or a follow, whether you listen on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you don't mind while you're there, give us a 5-star review. Maybe write a review. If you have a favorite episode, feel free to give it a like. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.